Hey Guy, tonight we are standing in a small, cluttered room on the second floor of an apartment building at 851 West Webster Avenue in Chicago. The year is 1973. Dust motes dance in the slivers of light cutting through the grimy windows. The air is thick with the smell of old paper, dust, and something else. Something like forgotten time. You're surrounded by stacks of magazines, newspapers, and worn-out shoes piled almost to the ceiling. But beneath the detritus, something extraordinary is happening. Your landlord, Nathan Lerner, is carefully unrolling a massive double-sided watercolor painting, 6 feet wide. On it, a battle rages. Small, determined-looking girls with butterfly wings flee from menacing soldiers. The colors are strange and beautiful, a mix of muted earth tones and startlingly bright hues. This is a secret world, a lifetime of creation that no one else has ever seen. It's a place of incredible beauty and unsettling strangeness. And honestly, if you were one of the characters in this story, you probably wouldn't survive this. So, before you get properly settled, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what we do here. It's always lovely to know who's listening, so feel free to post your city or town and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for some gentle ambient hum, and let's all just relax into tonight's journey. You are not the landlord, though. You are the room's absent tenant. You are the ghost in this machine, the creator who has just departed this world, leaving behind a universe on paper. You feel a strange detachment as you watch them sift through your life's work, these treasures you guarded so fiercely. You are Henry Darger, and for the first time, someone is stepping into your imagination without an invitation. You shuffle through the room, a phantom in your own space, your feet not quite touching the floorboards you polished for decades. You see the stacks of Pepto-Bismol bottles you collected, the balls of string you wound into perfect spheres, each one a tiny, contained world of its own. It's a museum of one man's quiet obsessions. Your landlord calls to his wife, Kyoko, his voice a mixture of awe and confusion. They don't understand. Not yet. How could they? They only knew you as the stooped, shuffling janitor from St. Joseph's Hospital, the quiet man who kept to himself. They didn't know that when you closed this door, you became a god, a historian, and a war correspondent for a world of your own making. You watch as Lerner carefully picks up a massive, typewritten manuscript. The title page reads, "The story of the Vivian girls in what is known as the realms of the unreal, of the Glandico-Angelinian war storm, caused by the child slave rebellion." It's over 15,000 pages long. A little light reading for a rainy day. It was the Great Chicago Fire of 1871 that truly solidified the city's reputation for grit and rebirth, paving the way for the architectural boom that would later define the very skyline you saw from your window. You remember seeing the old buildings, the ones that survived, and feeling a kinship with their resilience. You, too, survived a fire in your own way. Historians still debate whether your complex mythology was a form of self-therapy or a symptom of a profound, lifelong psychological struggle. Maybe it was both. You just called it your work. A weird little factoid of the era. In the mid-20th century, some people believed that sleeping with a raw onion in your sock could cure a cold. You tried it once. It didn't work, but it did make your corner of the apartment smell like a sad salad for a week, which wasn't a terrible change of pace. You float towards the window, looking out at the familiar Chicago street. The world outside was always loud, always moving, always demanding. But in here, in this room, you were in control. You were the author, the artist, the master of your own sprawling, secret reality. And now the door is open, and the world is rushing in. The sharp, antiseptic smell of bleach and floor wax fills your nostrils. It's a scent so familiar it's practically a part of you. For over 30 years, This was your world from 9 to 5. You are pushing a heavy mop bucket on squeaking wheels down the long, polished corridor of St. Joseph's Hospital. Your back aches with a familiar, dull throb. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting a sterile, greenish glow on everything. You are a creature of routine, a ghost in a gray janitor's uniform. You move through the hospital, unnoticed by the doctors in their crisp white coats and the nurses rushing past with charts and urgent expressions. You are just part of the scenery, like the water fountains or the faded paintings on the walls. Your job is to erase the messy evidence of life and death, the scuff marks, the spills, the daily grime. It's honest work, it's simple work, and it's blessedly anonymous. This anonymity is a cloak you wear, a shield against a world you've found to be intrusive and cruel. Here, no one asks you questions. No one wants to know about your day, your dreams, your past. They just want the floors to be clean. And you are very, very good at making things clean. You take a certain pride in it, the methodical back and forth motion of the mop, the way the floor gleams under your care. It's a small patch of order in a world of chaos. You find a strange sort of peace in the repetition. Mop, rinse, wring, repeat. It's a mantra that quiets the noise in your head. The real noise, though, is waiting for you back in your room. The clatter of armies, the screams of captured children, the thunder of war storms. Here, in the quiet, sterile halls of the hospital, you gather your strength for the battles you will document later tonight. Sometimes you find things left behind a dropped comic book, a child's drawing, a discarded newspaper. These are treasures. You tuck them away in the deep pockets of your coveralls. These scraps of the outside world are raw materials for your other life. A picture of a little girl from a Sears catalog ad can become a general in the Vivian Army. An article about a tornado in Oklahoma can become the basis for a Glandolinian weather weapon. You are a scavenger, a bowerbird, collecting the shiny, forgotten bits of one world to build another. A mainstream historical fact of the time is that hospitals in the mid-20th century were undergoing a massive shift, with the advent of penicillin and other antibiotics, transforming them from places people often went to die into places of genuine healing. You saw this firsthand, the quiet hope that started to fill the wards. It was a strange contrast to the perpetual warfare in your own stories. An odder tidbit is that for a time, some hospitals used a system of pneumatic tubes to shoot messages, and small items between departments, a sort of real-life internet made of air pressure and clattering canisters. You loved the sound they made, a swoosh thump that promised a secret message had arrived. You imagined your Vivian girls using a similar system to pass intelligence across the battlefield. Historians still debate whether you chose such a menial, solitary job to intentionally remain isolated, or if it was simply the only option available to a man with your limited social skills and troubled background. You don't have a grand answer. It paid the rent, and it left you alone. That was enough. As you finish the last hallway, you lean your mop against the wall and look at your reflection in the polished floor. You see a stooped, elderly man with weary eyes. But you know that's not the whole story. It's just the cover of the book. Tonight, you'll go home, close the door, and begin to write the next chapter. The sheets are thin and smell of harsh lye soap. They are always cold, even in the summer. You are a small boy again, and you are lying in a dormitory bed, one of 100 identical beds lined up in perfect soul-crushing rows. This is the mission of Our Lady of Mercy, a Catholic boys' home in Chicago. Your father, who was old and frail, could no longer care for you. So here you are. You're only 8 years old, but you already feel ancient. The world has proven itself to be a place where you lose things. You lost your mother when you were 4. You don't remember her face, just a vague feeling of warmth that is now gone. Now you've lost your father and your home. You learn quickly to be invisible. You are small and quiet, and you have a slight ticka tendency to clear your throat that the other boys sometimes mock. You learn to read, and the words on the page become a refuge. They are more reliable than people. The stories are a door to somewhere else, somewhere better. But the door always closes when you have to put the book down. The real trouble starts later, when you are moved from the boys' home. You've been labeled. The adults, with their clipboards and serious faces, have decided you are incorrigible. It's a big word. You're not sure what it means, but it feels like a cage. At 12, you are sent to the Illinois Asylum for Feeble-Minded Children in Lincoln, Illinois. The name itself is a judgment. It's a sprawling brick institution in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by flat, empty farmland. The routine here is even more rigid than at the boys' home. It's a life of bells and rules, of chores and punishments. You are told your mind is broken, that you need to be fixed. The work is hard. You are put to work in the kitchens, the laundry, the fields. It's less of a school and more of a child labor camp, disguised with a medical name. One of the most common treatments in early 20th century asylums was hydrotherapy, where patients were subjected to baths of extreme temperatures, sometimes for hours or even days, in the belief it would calm their nerves. You remember the shock of the cold water, a physical jolt meant to reset your unruly mind. It just made you colder. You find a small measure of defiance. You try to escape. Once, twice. You are caught each time and punished. The punishments are harsh, designed to break your will. But they don't. They harden it. They forge a core of silent, stubborn resistance inside you. You learn to keep your thoughts to yourself, to build a world inside your head where they can't reach. This is where the realms of the unreal begin to sprout, like a secret garden in a prison yard. Historians still debate whether your diagnosis was accurate by the standards of the time, or if you were simply a victim of a system that had no category for a creative, traumatized, and socially awkward child. To you, the label was just another wall they built around you. A well-known fact about this period is that the feeble-minded diagnosis was a broad, unscientific catch-all for a huge range of conditions, from genuine intellectual disabilities to epilepsy, behavioral problems, or even just poverty and rebelliousness. It was a way for society to file away its inconvenient children. You make one friend, a boy who shares your love of stories. But he, too, is eventually lost to the system. You are utterly alone. One day, a powerful storm, a tornado, is spotted in the distance. The sky turns a bruised greenish black. The asylum staff panics, herding the children into the cellars. In the chaos, you see your chance. You are 16 years old. You run. You don't look back. You just run, with the roar of the wind at your back, a sound you will never forget. It sounds like freedom. It sounds like war. You are walking through the grimy, bustling streets of 1920 Chicago, a free man. Well, a free teenager. The city is a sensory overload after the muted, oppressive quiet of the asylum. The roar of the L train overhead, the clamor of street vendors, the cacophony of automobile horns. It's a symphony of chaos. You are 16, on your own, and all you have are the clothes on your back and a deep, abiding mistrust of other people. You find work where you can. Menial jobs, mostly. A dishwasher, a hospital orderly. The kind of jobs where you can fade into the background. You find a small, cheap room to rent. It's not much, but it's yours. The door has a lock. This is a revelation. For the first time in your life, you can control who comes in and who stays out. And you decide that everyone stays out. Your room becomes your sanctuary, your fortress of solitude. It is here that the real work begins. You start to write. At first, it's just notes, fragments of ideas, memories of the asylum, scraps of stories you've read. You try to write a sequel to The Wizard of Oz, one of your favorite books. But your own story the one that has been brewing in your mind for years, keeps pushing its way to the surface. It demands to be told. The story of the Vivian girls. They are the 7 daughters of Robert Vivian, princesses of the Christian nation of Abyania. They are brave, resourceful, and righteous. And they are leading a rebellion against the evil, child-enslaving Glandolinian regime. You don't just write about them. You need to see them. But you can't draw. Not in the traditional sense. So you innovate. You become a master of collage and tracing. You scour the city for source material. Old newspapers, magazines, catalogs, comic books, coloring books. You haunt the trash bins and second-hand shops, a quiet hunter of images. You are particularly drawn to advertisements featuring children, especially the work of an artist named Annie Benson Muller, whose depictions of the copper-tone girl became iconic. You trace her figures, again and again, transforming these smiling, carefree ad children into your fierce, determined heroines. Historians still debate whether your use of tracing was a limitation of skill or a conscious artistic choice, a way to ground your fantastical world in the real imagery of popular culture. For you, it was simply practical. It was how you brought your girls to life. You buy huge rolls of paper, some of them 10 feet long, and tape them together to create vast panoramic canvases. You lay them out on the floor of your small room, a battlefield unfurling at your feet. A strange fact about early 20th century paper is that much of it was made with high acidity wood pulp, which is why old newspapers turn yellow and brittle so quickly. You didn't know or care about archival quality. You were working with the materials of the now, not thinking about a future audience. This impermanence gives your surviving work a fragile, urgent quality. A well-known historical event from this period was the Great Depression. The hardship was everywhere, a constant backdrop of soup kitchens and unemployment lines. You were used to having nothing, so in a way, you were well prepared. The city's struggle mirrored your own internal one, and you poured that feeling of a world in crisis directly into your work. The Glandolinians, with their greed and cruelty, were a perfect metaphor for the forces that crushed the lives of ordinary people. You sit on the floor, surrounded by your treasures, and begin to sketch out a scene, a daring escape. The Vivian girls, armed and determined, leading a group of freed children through a dark, menacing forest. The world outside your window can be as harsh as it wants. In here, you are in command. The Vivian sisters are your children, your generals, your saviors. They are everything you were not as a child, brave, defiant, and powerful. There are 7 of them. John, Catherine, Hetty, Angeline, Gwendolyn, Jenny, and Violet. You know them intimately. You know their personalities, their strengths, their fears. You write about their adventures in meticulous, almost obsessive detail. Their conversations, their battle strategies, their moments of quiet reflection. They are more real to you than the people you pass on the street every day. You give them a distinct look, traced from those advertisements and coloring book pages. They are small and slender, often depicted in little dresses, knee-high socks, and Mary Jane shoes. They look like innocent schoolgirls, but in their hands they hold rifles. Around their necks they wear crucifixes, symbols of their righteous Christian faith. This contrast is the heart of their power, the juxtaposition of innocence and brutal warfare. It's a theme you return to again and again, the innocent suffering at the hands of a corrupt and violent adult world. The Glandolinians, their enemies, are a vast and powerful empire. They are everything you despise about the world: authoritarian, cruel, and exploitative. Their soldiers are mustachioed, uniformed men, often modeled on Civil War-era photographs. You give them no quarter in your narrative. They are purely evil, their primary goal being the enslavement of children. You write of horrific punishments, of children forced into labor, of rebellions brutally crushed. The PG-13 line gets a little blurry here in your mind. The things you describe are harrowing, but you focus on the injustice rather than the graphic details. The war is long and bloody. The stakes are impossibly high. The fate of all the children in the world hangs in the balance. A well-known historical parallel here is the American Civil War, a conflict that fascinated you. You collected books on it, and its imagery, the uniforms, the battle flags, the sheer scale of the slaughter is woven throughout your work. The war between Abyania and Glandolinia is, in many ways, your own private civil war. One of the more peculiar details in your world building is your obsession with weather. You meticulously document the climate of the realms. You create your own names for types of storms, the most famous being the Glandeco-Angelinian war storm. These aren't just weather events. They are characters in their own right, massive, sentient tempests that can rage for months and change the course of the war. They mirror the emotional storms raging inside you. You spend hours writing detailed weather reports for your fictional world, a meteorologist for a land of your own creation. Historians still debate whether the pronounced Christian symbolism in your work reflects a deep personal faith or your experiences in a Catholic boys' home, where religion was an inescapable part of life and authority. You attend Mass nearly every day of your adult life, a ritual of quiet consistency. But in your art, the faith is an active, militant force, a weapon in the hands of your heroines. You look down at a drawing you've just finished. The Vivian girls are leading a charge across a blasted, war-torn landscape. The sky is a chaotic swirl of color, a storm of your own making. You feel a surge of pride. In this world, the children fight back, and sometimes they even win. One of the most striking and debated aspects of your heroines emerges on the page. You draw the Vivian girls, these paragons of youthful innocence, and you give them small male genitalia. Sometimes they are depicted nude, and this feature is clear and unambiguous. Other times they are clothed, but the narrative still refers to their unique anatomy. This is not a secret detail. It's a fundamental part of their being in your world. The reasons for this are locked inside you, a puzzle that scholars and psychologists will ponder for decades after you're gone. Is it a reflection of your own confusion about gender and identity? A symbol of the girl's strength, combining what you perceive as the traits of both sexes? A way to protect them, to make them unviolable in a world obsessed with their capture? You don't have a clinical, analytical answer. It just is. It's how they are. It feels right to you. It makes them special, different, not subject to the same rules as the children in the outside world. They are your creations, and you can make them however you see fit. Your narrative, your sprawling 15,000-page manuscript, is typed on an old, clunky typewriter. You type single-spaced on both sides of the paper to save money. The result is a dense, almost impenetrable block of text. You are not writing for a reader. You are writing for yourself, an act of pure, unmediated creation. Your prose is unique. It's filled with long, rambling sentences, repetitive phrases, and a strange, formal vocabulary mixed with childlike simplicity. You have a habit of using incredibly long names for characters and places, and you love exclamation points. It's the unfiltered voice of your inner world. For instance, a typical Glandolinian general might be named General Jack Hill Manley, commander of the 1st Regiment of the Army of the City of Onion. It has a certain slightly absurd ring to it. A weird historical factoid is the existence of Tijuana Bibles, small, palm-sized pornographic comic books that were popular from the 1920s to the 60s. They often featured famous cartoon characters or celebrities in explicit situations. While your work is not pornographic, some have speculated that the uninhibited, underground nature of these comics might have influenced your own willingness to create private, taboo-breaking art. You certainly never saw one, but the impulse to create outside the bounds of polite society was in the air. A more mainstream historical context is the Kinsey Reports on Human Sexuality, published in 1948 and 1953. These reports shocked the American public by revealing that a wide range of sexual behaviors, including homosexuality and gender nonconformity, were far more common than previously believed. You lived through this cultural moment, a time when the very definitions of normal were being publicly questioned, even as your own private explorations remained locked in your room. Historians still debate the nature of your own sexuality, a topic on which you left behind no direct clues. Was your reclusiveness a way to hide a forbidden identity? Or were you simply asexual, your creative drive completely sublimated into your art? The truth is, the world of physical intimacy was as alien to you as the surface of the moon. Your energy was channeled elsewhere, into the epic struggles on the page. You finish a watercolor. It depicts the Vivian girls bathing in a river, their small androgynous bodies painted with a strange tenderness. They are innocent, powerful, and entirely yours. You are their protector, and you have made them in an image the world cannot easily categorize or harm. Your life is a study in contrasts, a carefully balanced equation of drudgery and fantasy. The day is for the real world, the night is for the realms. You wake up before dawn, the sky outside your window still a deep, inky blue. You go to Mass, a ritual that anchors your day in quiet contemplation. Then it's off to the hospital, to the world of bleach and quiet corridors. You punch the clock. You perform your duties with methodical precision. You eat your lunch alone, usually a simple sandwich you've packed. You are Henry the janitor, invisible, unremarkable. But when the clock strikes 5, a transformation begins. You walk home, your pace quickening as you get closer to your building on Webster Avenue. You climb the stairs, unlock your door, and step across the threshold. You are no longer Henry the janitor. You are Henry Darger, creator of worlds. The first thing you do is check on your work. You unroll a massive watercolor, letting it cover the floor. You examine the progress from the night before, your mind immediately re-engaging with the narrative. Where did you leave off? Ah, yes. The Vivian girls were trapped in a fortress, surrounded by Glandolinian forces. How will they escape? You pull out your typewriter. The clacking of the keys fills the small room. A sound as constant and comforting as your own heartbeat. You write for hours, losing all track of time. The sun sets, and the room grows dark, but you barely notice. You are not in Chicago anymore. You are on a distant planet, documenting a desperate siege. You are a war correspondent, embedded with the Abianian forces. A mainstream historical fact of this era, the Cold War, hangs over everything. The constant threat of nuclear annihilation, the paranoia of spies and secret enemies, the division of the world into 2 opposing camps. This atmosphere seeps into your work. The Glandolinians, with their totalitarian control and vast armies, are a perfect stand-in for the perceived communist threat. Your war is a forever war, much like the ideological struggle that defined the mid-20th century. Sometimes your 2 worlds collide in strange ways. You incorporate real-world events into your narrative. You see a picture in the newspaper of a devastating fire, and you write a similar fire into your story. You read about a terrible plane crash, and a Glandolinian airship suffers a catastrophic failure. A particularly odd factoid is your fascination with a specific, tragic local news story. The 1911 murder of a 5-year-old girl named Elsie Parubik. You became obsessed with the case, a symbol for you of the ultimate crime, the murder of an innocent child. You even have a faded newspaper clipping with a photograph of her, which you lost at some point. An event that distressed you so much you wrote it into your epic as a major catastrophe. Historians still debate how much your daily experiences at the hospital influenced the themes of your work. Did the daily proximity to suffering, illness, and death fuel the darker aspects of your fantasy world? Or was it the opposite? Did the order and cleanliness you imposed on the hospital provide a necessary counterbalance to the chaos of the realms? You don't think about it in such grand terms. You just know that both are necessary. The hospital pays the rent. The realms make life bearable. As the night wears on, you switch from writing to painting. You mix your watercolors using whatever you have on hand. Sometimes you add gelatin or glue to give them more body. You work on the floor, a creator god looking down on your world, adding color and life to the scenes you've imagined. This is your true existence. The rest is just waiting. The scale of your project is staggering. It's not a hobby. It's a life's work, an obsession of monumental proportions. Let's talk numbers. The manuscript, in the realms of the unreal, is 15,145 single-spaced pages. To put that in perspective, Tolstoy's War and Peace is about 1,225 pages. You've written the equivalent of 12 War and Peaces, and that's just the main story. You also wrote a sequel, Crazy House, Further Adventures in Chicago, which is another 8,500 pages. You wrote an autobiography, The History of My Life, which clocks in at a modest 5,084 pages. The first 4,672 pages of your autobiography, however, are a fictional story about a giant tornado named Sweetie Pie. Your actual life story only begins on page 4,673. This is not how most people write autobiographies. It's a classic Darger move burying the personal and painful under a mountain fantastical invention. Your artistic output is just as immense. You created several hundred watercolor paintings. Many of them are enormous panoramic scrolls, some as long as 12 feet. To view them properly, you have to unroll them across the floor of a large room. They are often double-sided, a different scene painted on each side, a way to conserve precious paper. You are not just telling a story. You are building an archive. You are the sole historian, cartographer, and artist for an entire civilization. You create detailed maps of the realms, lists of Glandolinian generals, and complex battle plans. You even compose anthems and battle songs. This encyclopedic approach is a hallmark of what would later be called outsider art, the intense, obsessive world-building of a self-taught artist, creating for themselves alone. A mainstream historical fact is that during the mid-20th century, the art world was dominated by abstract expressionism, a movement that celebrated huge canvases and raw, emotional gestures. Think Jackson Pollock dripping paint. In a strange, parallel way, you were also working on a massive scale with intense emotion, but in complete isolation from the art world's trends and conversations. You were an abstract expressionist of the soul, but with more little girls and fewer gallery openings. A weirder fact is your method of sourcing figures. You would sometimes buy multiple copies of the same comic book or magazine if you liked a particular character's pose. You'd cut them all out and use them as a template, an army of identical paper dolls ready to be traced into your war. It's a primitive form of copy and paste, a pre-digital Photoshop technique born of necessity. Historians still debate whether you ever intended for this work to be seen by others. The sheer scale and meticulous care suggest a desire for permanence, yet your intense secrecy suggests the opposite. Perhaps you were creating for an ideal audience of one, yourself. Or maybe, in the back of your mind, you hoped that someday, someone would unlock the door and find the world you had built. You sit on your floor, surrounded by your colossal creations. The room is barely big enough to contain them. You have to roll up one painting to have space to work on another. It's a logistical nightmare, but you don't mind. You are not just in your room. You are in the realms. And the realms are vast. They stretch out beyond the walls, beyond the city, to a place where your imagination has no limits. The sheer volume of it all is a testament to 60 years of dedicated, secret labor. It's a universe masquerading as a junk-filled apartment. The sounds of Chicago are the soundtrack to your creation. You live just a few blocks from the elevated train line, the L. The rumble and screech of the train cars is a constant, familiar presence. It's the sound of the city's metallic heartbeat. Sometimes, when a train screeches around a nearby curve, you incorporate the sound into your narrative. It becomes the shriek of a Glandolinian war machine, the grinding of a fortress gate, or the cry of a strange, winged beast. The city's symphony of sirens, horns, and distant shouts weaves its way into the fabric of your work, a constant reminder of the real world just outside your window. You are a creature of habit, your life a series of interlocking rituals. Daily mass, the walk to the hospital, the walk home, the evening spent in the realms. You eat the same simple meals over and over. You rarely speak to anyone beyond what is necessary. This rigid structure creates a safe, predictable container for a mind that is teeming with chaos and epic fantasy. It's a paradox, the more boring. Your life is on the outside, the more exciting it can be on the inside. You are also an avid collector, though you wouldn't use that word. You are a rescuer of discarded things. You can't bear to see things thrown away. Your room is a testament to this, filled with stacks of newspapers and magazines going back decades. You also collect Pepto-Bismol bottles, which you carefully clean and line up on shelves. And you are famous for your balls of string. Any scrap of twine or string you find is carefully wound into a growing collection of perfect spheres, some as large as grapefruits. It's a way of taking the tangled, messy scraps of the world and imposing order on them, creating something whole and contained. A mainstream historical fact is that this was the golden age of American print media. Magazines like Life and Look, with their glossy photojournalism, brought the world into people's homes. For you, they were more than entertainment. They were your primary source of artistic inspiration, a visual encyclopedia from which you could build your own world. An odd little factoid about your collections. You were so well known for picking up trash and other discarded items on your walks that some of the neighborhood children reportedly called you the crazy old man. This is a sad irony. The very children you sought to save and champion in your fantasy world saw you as a figure of ridicule in the real one. They didn't know you were fighting a war for them every night. Historians still debate the psychological function of your collecting. And hoarding. Was it a symptom of obsessive-compulsive disorder? A manifestation of poverty mentality? A fear of having nothing? Or was it an extension of your artistic practice? A belief that everything, even a broken rubber band or a month-old newspaper, had potential value and could be repurposed for your work? You see it more simply. These things are useful. You might need them someday. A picture from a 1942 newspaper could become the face of a new character. A bit of string could be used to bind one of your handmade books. Nothing is wasted. You pause. You're writing and listen. An ambulance siren wails in the distance, rising and falling. In your mind, it's not an ambulance. It's a call to arms for the Vivian girls, a signal that another battle is about to begin. You turn back to the typewriter. The real world provides the sounds. You provide the story. The Glandolinians are not a monolithic evil. You give them a complex, if monstrous, society. They are a military-industrial complex run amok, a nation whose entire culture is based on war and the enslavement of children. Their motivations, as you write them, are rooted in a belief that children are inherently rebellious and must be controlled for the good of society. It's a twisted, authoritarian logic that you find endlessly horrifying. This is the core conflict that drives your 15,000-page epic, the organized, systematic cruelty of adults against the fierce, righteous innocence of children. You spend countless hours detailing the Glandolinian army. You create charts of their command structure, from the highest generals down to the lowly foot soldiers. You draw their uniforms in painstaking detail, often modeling them on historical armies, particularly those of the American Civil War. You give them long, elaborate names and titles. There is a sense of dark pageantry to their evil, a kind of bureaucratic monstrosity that you find both fascinating and repellent. One of the more disturbing elements you create is the Blenjogomons, or Blenjins. These are composite creatures, dragon-like beings with butterfly wings and human heads, often the heads of little girls. They are a terrifying and ambiguous presence in the realms. Are they allies of the Vivian girls? Or are they monsters? Sometimes they seem to be both. They represent a kind of wild, untamable, and dangerous innocence, a stark contrast to the pure, Christian goodness of the Vivians. A well-known historical event that casts a long shadow over your work is World War II. You were in your 50s when the war raged, and the newsreels and newspaper reports of totalitarian regimes, concentration camps, and epic battles undoubtedly fueled your imagination. The Glandolinians are, in essence, your own fictional version of the Axis powers, and the Vivian girls are the desperate, outnumbered resistance fighting for freedom. A more obscure historical fact is the existence of victory gardens during both world wars, where civilians were encouraged to grow their own food to support the war effort. In your world, the heroic Abianians also have their own version of this, with children tending secret gardens to feed the rebel armies. Another example of children performing adult duties in the face of overwhelming crisis. Historians still debate the source of the extreme violence in your work. While you rarely depict graphic gore, the narrative is filled with descriptions of battles, strangulations, and disasters. Was this a way of processing the horrors of the 20th century? Or was it a manifestation of your own inner rage and trauma from your childhood in the asylum, where you felt powerless against cruel adults? You write scenes of Glandolinian soldiers being defeated in spectacular, often brutal ways. They are strangled by the hands of the Vivian girls, caught in fiery explosions, or torn apart by Blenjins. In your world, justice is not gentle. It is a violent reckoning. You look at a painting of a massive battle. Hundreds of figures clash on a vast plain. The sky is dark with smoke and strange flying creatures. It's a scene of terrible violence, but also of heroic struggle. Here, in your room, you are the ultimate arbiter of justice. And for the Glandolinians, judgment is always harsh. Your landlords, Nathan and Kyoko Lerner, are a quiet presence in your life for its final few decades. Nathan is a photographer, an artist in his own right, though you don't know this. To you, he is just the man you pay rent to, a part of the outside world that you keep at a polite distance. You are a model tenant. You are quiet, you pay on time, and you never cause any trouble. They, in turn, respect your privacy. They seem to understand, on some level, that you are a man who wants to be left alone. You have brief, courteous interactions with them. A nod on the stairs. A quiet hello in the hallway. You sometimes ask Nathan for help with things you can't manage, like lighting the pilot light on your stove. He finds you odd, but gentle. He notices your strange habits, the way you talk to yourself, the way you shuffle when you walk, your intense focus on the weather. He has no idea what lies behind the door to your room. He just knows you as Henry, the old janitor. One day, you show him a ball of your collected string. You are immensely proud of it. He is intrigued by its perfect, dense sphericity. It's a brief moment of connection, a shared appreciation for a strange and beautiful object. It's one of the few times you willingly share a piece of your private world, even if it's just a ball of string. He is also the one you entrust with a box of your photographic glass plates, family portraits from your early childhood. You ask him to make prints for you, a task he readily agrees to. This act shows a glimmer of trust, a rare commodity for you. The most famous of these is a portrait of you as a young boy, a serious, wide-eyed child staring out at the world. It's a haunting image, a glimpse of the boy before the asylum, before the walls went up. A well-known fact of Chicago's cultural history is the rise of the Chicago Imagists in the 1960s, a group of artists who rejected the abstract New York art scene in favor of figurative, often grotesque and surreal, art. Nathan Lerner was well acquainted with this scene. It's a fascinating coincidence that while this movement was happening in the city's galleries, you were secretly creating your own, even more intensely personal, figurative and surreal world just one floor below him. An odder factoid is that Nathan Lerner himself was a student at the new Bauhaus in Chicago, a school that championed experimental photography and design. He was a trained, professional artist living in close proximity to one of the 20th century's most significant untrained, outsider artists, and neither was truly aware of the other's creative life. It's a perfect Chicago story of hidden worlds, existing side by side. Historians still debate how much the Lerners knew or suspected about you before your death. Did they have any inkling of the massive secret project accumulating in the room above them? Kyoko later recalled hearing the clatter of your typewriter at all hours, but they chalked it up to the eccentricities of their reclusive tenant. They respected your privacy so completely that they remained oblivious to the universe being documented. On the other side of the wall, as you grow older and more frail, you begin to rely on them a little more. You know your time is running out. You start to think about what will happen to your work, to the realms. You make a half-hearted attempt to find a home for it, a place that will care for abandoned and orphaned children, hoping they might want your stories. But the bureaucracy and indifference of the world are too much for you. The plan fizzles out. In the end, you leave it to fate. You leave it to your landlord. The years are beginning to take their toll. Your shuffle becomes more pronounced, your back more stooped. The daily walk to the hospital is an epic journey. You are in your late 70s, and the physical world is becoming increasingly difficult to navigate. You retire from your job at St. Joseph's. For the first time in over 30 years, you don't have the daily routine of the hospital to structure your days. Now, all your time belongs to the realms. You are a full-time historian of your own imagination. But your body is failing you. Your hands, which once so meticulously traced figures and mixed watercolors, are now gnarled with arthritis. Your eyesight is fading. It becomes harder to work on your massive paintings, to crawl around on the floor like you used to. Your creative output slows. The great war in the realms of the unreal, which has raged for decades on paper, seems to be winding down as well. You write a final, cataclysmic battle. The Vivian girls achieve a hard-won, bittersweet victory. The Glandolinian regime is overthrown. But the cost has been immense. The world is scarred, and innocence has been lost forever. It's not a simple, happy ending. It's an exhausted one. You feel a sense of completion, but also a profound emptiness. What do you do after the forever war is finally over? You turn your attention more fully to your autobiography, The History of My Life. This is your final project. You pour your memories onto the page, or at least your version of them. You write about your lonely childhood, your difficult father, the horrors of the asylum. But even here, you can't help but blend fact and fiction. The story of the tornado, Sweetie Pie, takes up the first 4,672 pages. It's as if you can only approach your own trauma through the lens of a fantastical disaster. A mainstream historical event of this time was the Vietnam War, a conflict that deeply divided America. The images of war on television every night, the sense of a pointless, brutal conflict, surely resonated with you. The ambiguous, costly victory in your own epic mirrors the national mood of disillusionment. A quirky fact from this period is the rise of pop psychology and self-help books with titles like I'm Okay, You're Okay. This cultural push for self-analysis and understanding was completely alien to your way of being. You processed your life not through therapy, but through allegory, myth, and a 15,000-page war story. Historians still debate whether the shift in your focus from the realms to your autobiography in your final years was a sign of creative exhaustion or a final, urgent attempt to make sense of your own life before it was too late. Maybe you felt that after documenting the lives of the Vivian girls, it was finally time to document your own. Your health continues to decline. Simple tasks become monumental efforts. Your room, once a meticulously organized, if cluttered, sanctuary, falls into disarray. Dust settles on the great rolled-up canvases. The typewriter falls silent for longer and longer periods. One day in 1972, you can no longer care for yourself. The learners find you weak and confused. An ambulance is called. As you are carried out of your apartment building on a stretcher, you look up at the window of your room. You are leaving your world behind. You know you will never be back. The door is locked one last time, with the realms waiting silently inside. You are lying in a clean, sterile bed in a Catholic nursing home. The Little Sisters of the Poor. It's come full circle. Your life began in an institution, and it will end in one. But this place is different from the asylum. It's quiet, and the people are kind. It's a place of gentle, managed decline. Your room is small and bare. There are no stacks of newspapers, no balls of string, no massive canvases rolled up in the corner. There is just you, a bed, a window, and your memories. You've been separated from your life's work. The realms are miles away, locked behind a door on Webster Avenue. This separation is a physical ache, a phantom limb. For 60 years, your identity was tied to that room and what it contained. Now, you are just Henry Darger again. An old, sick man in a nursing home. You are quiet and withdrawn, as you have always been. You attend Mass. You eat your meals. You watch the seasons change through your window. You are waiting. Nathan Lerner visits you. He brings you some of the prints he made from your old glass plate negatives. You look at the photo of yourself. As a boy, your face so serious and unsmiling. You wonder what that boy would think if he could see you now. You talk to Lerner a little about your work. You tell him you have stories and pictures. You ask him to take care of your things. You want them to be kept safe. You also tell him, with a hint of urgency, to destroy your work if you die. You say it's too monstrous. This is the great contradiction you leave behind. A lifetime spent creating a universe and a final wish for its annihilation. Was it a moment of genuine shame and fear? A test to see if Lerner truly valued the work? Or the confused rambling of a dying man? A well-known fact of this period, the early 1970s, is the Watergate scandal, a national drama of secrets, conspiracies, and hidden tapes. It was a time when the idea of secret, private histories being unwillingly brought to light was on everyone's mind. Your own private history was about to have its own Watergate moment. A more obscure factoid, many nursing homes at the time had strict rules about personal possessions to maintain order and hygiene. You would not have been allowed to bring your clutter with you, even if you had been physically able to. This institutional policy in a way, is what preserved your room as a perfect time capsule for Lerner to discover. Historians still debate the meaning of your request to destroy the realms. Did you truly want it all gone? Or was it a form of reverse psychology, a plea to be seen and understood? Nathan Lerner, a fellow artist, sensed the importance of what you had created, even without having seen it all. He chose to ignore your request, a decision that would change the course of art history. He told you he would take care of it, a gentle lie to soothe a dying man. You are fading. The days blur together. You think about the Vivian girls. You wonder what they are doing now that the war is over. You hope they are safe. You hope they are happy. In your mind, they are still real, still living their lives on that distant, war-torn planet you built for them. You are their creator, and they are your legacy. You close your eyes. You can hear the roar of a distant storm. A Atlantico-Angelinian war storm, perhaps. Or maybe it's just the sound of a Chicago wind rattling the window of your small, quiet room. April 13th, 1973. You take your last breath in the quiet, sterile room of the nursing home. You are 81 years old. Your passing is unnoticed by the world. Just another old man, a reclusive former janitor, gone. Your official cause of death is not recorded with any particular poetry. It just ... ends. There is no funeral to speak of, no crowd of mourners. You are buried in a pauper's grave at All Saints Cemetery in Des Plaines, Illinois. Your headstone is simple, bearing your name and dates, and a single poignant epitaph, added later by the Lerners, artist and protector of children. A few days after your death, Nathan and Kyoko Lerner unlocked the door to your apartment at 851 West Webster Avenue. They need to clear it out for the next tenant. They are prepared for a mess. They know you were a hoarder, a collector of life's detritus. They are not prepared for what they find. The room is a revelation. It is an explosion of creativity. It's a mess, yes, but it's a purposeful mess. It's an archive, an artist's studio, a world unto itself. They begin the monumental task of sorting through your possessions. They unroll the giant canvases, their jaws dropping at the scale. And strange beauty of your art, they find the watercolors, vibrant and bizarre, telling a story of war and wonder. They find the massive typewritten manuscripts, the sheer volume of which is almost incomprehensible. They realize in that moment that their quiet, eccentric tenant was not just a janitor. He was a secret genius, a self-taught master who had created one of the most astonishing and immersive bodies of work in the 20th century. This is the moment Henry Darger is truly born. Not the man, but the artist, the legend. A mainstream historical context for this discovery is the growing academic and public interest in outsider art or art brut. The French artist Jean de Buffet had been championing this kind of work for decades. Art made by people outside the established art world, driven by an intense personal vision. Your discovery was like finding the Rosetta Stone of outsider art. A strange little detail of the discovery is that alongside the epic paintings and manuscripts, the Lerners also found your daily weather journals, decades of meticulous records of Chicago's temperature and precipitation. This obsessive documentation of the real world stands in stark contrast to the wild fantasy of the realms, showing a mind that was, in its own way, deeply scientific and orderly. Nathan Lerner, with his artist's eye, immediately understands the significance of his find. He knows he can't just throw this away. He has a duty to preserve it. Historians still debate what would have happened if anyone else had been your landlord. Would they have seen the value in your strange, disturbing, and beautiful creations? Or would it all have been unceremoniously hauled away to a landfill, your secret universe lost forever? It was a miracle of timing and circumstance, a perfect alignment of a hidden artist and a discerning discoverer. The room is cleared out. The art is carefully cataloged and preserved. The world you kept hidden for 60 years is about to be revealed. Your life as a recluse is over. Your life as an art world phenomenon is about to begin. The legacy you left behind is as complex and contradictory as the work itself. After Nathan Lerner revealed your art to the world, your fame grew slowly, then exponentially. The first gallery shows were met with a mixture of fascination and bewilderment. Who was this man? Where did this incredible, disturbing world come from? You became a posthumous celebrity. Art critics and psychologists wrote volumes about you, trying to unravel the mysteries of your life and work. They analyzed your traumatic childhood, your reclusive nature, your unique artistic techniques. You were labeled the quintessential outsider artist, a term you would have found as strange and confining as the ones they gave you as a child. Your work now hangs in major museums around the world, from the Museum of Modern Art in New York to the Art Institute of Chicago. Your massive paintings, once crammed into your tiny room, are now displayed in pristine, climate-controlled galleries. People stare at them, whisper about them, try to decipher their secrets. Your private obsession has become public property. The value of your work has skyrocketed. A single one of your watercolors, which you made with cheap paints on scavenged paper, can now sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There is a deep irony in this. The creations of a man who lived his entire life in poverty are now treasures. Of the art market, you would have been baffled by this, and probably a little horrified. What would you do with all that money? Buy better paper, perhaps. A lifetime supply of Pepto-Bismol. A more mainstream historical fact is that your story has become a touchstone for discussions about mental health, creativity, and trauma. You have inspired novels, documentaries, albums, and plays. Your life has become a modern myth, a parable about the power of imagination to transcend a painful reality. A final, odd factoid. The building at 851 West Webster Avenue where you lived and created your world has become a site of pilgrimage for your admirers. People travel to see the place where the realms were born, hoping to feel some connection to your spirit. Your room itself was even recreated for a museum exhibition, a meticulous reconstruction of your creative chaos. Historians still debate your ultimate place in the art historical canon. Are you a major 20th century artist, or a fascinating but ultimately isolated anomaly? Was your work a profound commentary on the human condition, or the deeply personal ramblings of a troubled soul? The answer, like in your stories, is probably somewhere in the middle. You are both. You are a reclusive janitor and a master world builder, a traumatized boy and the protector of the Vivian girls. Your life was a secret, but your art now speaks to the world. And as the last of the curious onlookers leave the gallery for the night, the lights dim over the sprawling, colorful landscapes you left behind. The hum of the climate control system is a gentle, steady whisper, a far cry from the rumble of the L train. It was the soundtrack of your lonely, creative nights. Your story, once contained within the four walls of a small Chicago apartment, now echoes in these quiet, hallowed halls, a testament to a life lived on the inside, a universe built from scraps and dreams. The battles are over, the children are safe, and the Creator is finally at rest. And your strange, beautiful, and unsettling world continues to unfold, night after night, for anyone willing to step inside and look closely at the magnificent, sprawling chaos you so lovingly crafted. The realms of the unreal are quiet now, waiting patiently in the soft, dark gallery for the morning to come, their secrets kept safe behind the glass, their stories continuing to whisper for those who take the time to listen to the silence.